I've experienced similar things where I've had instances with theft, and I've made a report and there was never any follow through. And it's not like my life was threatened, but it was, you know, theft, and I've heard it over and over and again. And I think that the problem may be that we don't have a real good detective. We don't have any funding for like detective services, really, right?
It's interesting you say that, Chief. Can you talk a little bit about the process by which how do we process, how do we investigate, and who actually does those investigations? Can you kind of share
Absolutely. That? Right, she's correct. Right now we have no detective. We're so, the patrol officer has to investigate his own crime. And if the call volume is there, we're talking, we answer most calls for service, you know, and it becomes burdensome to some degree. So what we try to do now is that the process right now is if an officer is assigned to a particular area, meaning Bisbee is Area 1, Warren is Area 2, and San Jose is Area 3, we're trying to rotate. If that officer is busy, we try to have the other officer pick up the call to ease that burden on that particular officer, because he's having now to investigate, to do traditionally what detectives would do, and then do his regular patrol duties. So, and in that same respect, they're having to do the administrative part of that by doing the reports, doing the records, trying to make sure that all his reports get to our part-time records clerk up to the county attorney. Our records clerk is a Monday, Tuesday, half a day, Wednesday. So all our reports that are checked in on, say for instance on a Thursday, they go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday she'll collect all the stuff that was done with that period, and then she has to process those. The caseloads are so heavy. Traffic accidents that require reports. We get insurance companies want these detailed reports. We have up to 7 days to do those. And in the meanwhile, they pick up a burglary or they pick up an assault, and they get inundated with all this stuff. And then we struggle to have people on the street while allowing this officer to do the necessary paperwork. And like I said, we tried to address it, but we've been unsuccessful at this point to try to get someone to do nothing but investigations, which would alleviate a lot of these problems. So, yes?
I would say, just from appearances, and I can't go back and look at timesheets or costs, but it seems to me, and I don't know, maybe you have a different idea, that public safety takes second seat to traffic enforcement.
Absolutely.
It's time and resources.
I would agree with that. Coming from...
Because it's not a revenue generating issue.
No, absolutely. And when you look at and that's something that when we look at activity, we don't do a lot of traffic stops, and we try to sit in a particular area and patrol to try to put a stop to some of the stuff that's going on. But again, when there's only 2 officers working, something occurs in area 2 or 3, it draws the officers, and we're kind of going from here to there.
Dave?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up, if I might suggest, in policing, you know, it's always been a thing that if you could, when I was with the city of Tucson as an example, we had 4 sectors, and we always said, if each sector could go out and arrest target 10 people and arrest them, then the crime would drop 90% in each sector, because these same people are repeat offenders over and over and over again. And what happens with our officers is they're so busy taking reports and they're unable to follow up that the same person gets to do it over, which generates more reports, which it becomes a vicious cycle that they get involved in. I haven't talked to them, but I can almost guarantee you each one of them say, I know if I could arrest so-and-so and so-and-so, it'd take care of it. So what I wanted to bring up is that some jurisdictions, because there's no way in hell that Bisbee is going to be able to afford a detective. We know that, and the training and everything. But some jurisdictions in Arizona, smaller jurisdictions, have taken advantage of the fact that there are numerous retired police officers, retired military police, retired feds, and so forth in their area. Detective work very seldom takes a badge and a gun. When you effect an arrest is when you need the badge and the gun. But the hard work of follow-up, talking to people, gathering the data, getting it to the county attorney, getting it into a form and so forth, is not something that takes a sworn officer to do, quite honestly. So there's a number of jurisdictions that have gone to a volunteer system. And if they bring the people in, they run them through the records to make, do the quick background like they would with anybody else, and then let them sit down, give them an area, give them reports, and get them busy, and get some of these people off the street. And so I'm just bringing up some things that have worked. I know Sholo did it, and other departments, because a number of my retired buddies worked for Sholo on a free basis to do those things.
Okay, great, I love that suggestion.
It sounds like you're talking about acute versus procedural situations when there's violence perpetrated against somebody versus traffic stops. And so I don't know if is that a strategic call that is done kind of from the top in terms of what the approach is for for the police department in general. Like, okay, when we have a acute situation, there was a murder or a rape or an assault. These other things like parking go by the wayside until this is handled.
The state of Arizona does have certain mandate on the law books that we have to enforce. Domestic violence, acts of violent crime, there's most, if not all, felonies have to be enforced in a timely manner. And we don't really have a large choice in that matter when it comes to that. Now, the other issues you're talking about, traffic stops, those are definitely discretionary things that, like you said, you can put those on to some degree on the back burner. I'm not going to say completely on the back burner because we don't ever want to have that happen, but there are certain things that are mandated by law that we have to enforce. Domestic violence is one of them. It's a huge thing in the state of Arizona. The state of Arizona takes it very serious, which we all should. Those are one of the things that we have to enforce. We don't necessarily have a choice in that matter. Now, if we're dealing with a traffic accident or something on the highway or something that might be going on, whether it be a traffic stop or whatever it might be, when one of those calls comes out and needs a response to it, the fact of the matter is sometimes we only have 2 officers that are on the streets at any given time with the city of Bisbee in the city limits. So both officers will now have to be redirected to that particular scene. And if we have a serious situation, a serious crime that's occurred in that area, those officers may be tied up for more than 2 to 3 hours at a time to get that person, to get the crime investigated, to get whoever needs to be taken, if indeed they need to be, trained or booked, paperwork process completed, getting them out. So you're looking at taking an officer off the road and leaving one officer on the street. So you have that constant balance, that shift balance where we're constantly having to shift from one extreme to the other. Does the city of Bisbee always get those calls for service? No, we don't. There's not a huge influx of calls that come in for domestic violence and things like that, but we do get them.
David?
Well, it's kind of a follow-up on several things that have come up. Chief Reyna made mention of it, David Smith made mention of it. Pablo's situation is sort of brings it to light. As a community, what can we do to get the Cochise County attorney, prosecutor, to be more aggressive? Guys are out there arresting people, and they're back out in the street the next day. The same offenders time and time again, and it seems as though what they're committing escalates. And do we need to wait until they're murdering people before they get put away permanently?
Okay.
I wouldn't have a clear-cut answer for that, because that's something that we've struggled with throughout.
Well, I know, but
forever,
it's kind of, I'm throwing this out there so everybody can start thinking about it. We need to, it'd be nice to be able to get some leverage with the county to make them more,
Council?
I don't know, more aggressive with their
I just want to follow up on something that George mentioned. It's that nasty stone garden. And I think that some of the frustration with us in town is that we keep hearing that we have 2 officers on duty, we don't have a lot of time, you know, we can't investigate, but yet we do have 25 hours per pay period of overtime available to officers through the Stone Garden program. So yeah, you know, we can't use our officers here to do the kind of work that I know that you guys all want to do for us.
Yeah.
But yet we have time for Stone Garden because we're getting federal monies to pay for that. And that, I think, is a frustrating point
Absolutely.
for us.
It's 16 hours now, so it, you know, just so that it's out there, it's 16. However, we've tried to get Stone Garden to allow us to do that, and they just refuse to let us do that. And then the city's budget doesn't, we can't use the city's budget overtime because then we would blow it up. We've been, you know, forced to follow the rules to the point where now they're keeping us out there. But we'd love to do that if we could.